Am I the asshole for following my mom's advice about my breastfeeding wife? My wife gave birth recently. She's been trying to breastfeed. Our baby doesn't like formula and can't latch onto the silicone nipple properly. But she has a hard time because she isn't producing enough milk. My mom, who was a midwife, said it was because of stress and that my wife was too stressed out to make enough breast milk. The doctor and the lactation consultant confirmed that stress does impact the flow of milk. My wife's work has been pinging us even though she has 6 months of maternity leave. My mom moved in with us to help with the baby. My wife's family lives too far to be anything but moral support. She's been making my wife food, stuff that helps with milk production, making my wife rest, making sure she gets enough sleep. My mom suggests my wife lie in a quiet, dim room, and I or my mom would rub her feet or her shoulders or would stroke her hair. Both these things soothe my wife, and just let her feel relaxed. This has actually worked the best. The important part is to start the process before the baby is hungry. My wife has an incredibly irritating childhood friend, Becky. Becky is the worst type of soul-sucking person. She makes a shitty problem and runs to my wife to fix it. My wife is reluctant to stand up to Becky because Becky was the only girl who didn't make fun of her in their childhood. That's because she treats my wife like her personal servant. On Sunday, Becky came over because the man she was hooking up dumped her, and plus she spent all her money on booze and weed and couldn't afford rent for the month, which she was already late on. She expected me to calm my wife down so that she could fix her problems. I said no and told her to leave, because my wife was breastfeeding. She insisted and tried to sneak past me and enter our house. I told her that my wife was breastfeeding and that she could not be disturbed, as per my mom's suggestions. I told her that she would stress out my wife with her problems, and if she wanted to come in she couldn't talk about them at all. She called me controlling, and a mama's boy and friends of my wife later texted me calling me an asshole. My wife says she doesn't care that I told her to leave but said I could be gentler about her problems. Not the asshole. I thought this was going to go towards you trying to control your wife, as so many posts on Am I the Asshole go. I'm so glad that isn't the case. It doesn't seem like your mother is there lording over the house and forcing your wife to do X, but that she is a professional giving good advice and ideas, that both you and your wife chose to follow them and they seem to be helping. Your wife has enough worries and stress right now to be bothered by some self-centered user. If she's okay with what you did, who cares what Becky thinks? I mean, not the asshole, obviously. And also, do you think your mom would like to adopt me? She sounds great lol. Not the asshole. You just sound like a good partner looking out for your wife and baby. Maybe you could have gone easier, IDK. That Becky woman sounded pretty pushy. Not the asshole. We all know what kind of friend Becky is. She's there to use your wife financially and emotionally. This is a trying time for any new mother and parent. I definitely think your wife needs to really sit down with you and have a conversation about this so-called friend. She's not actually there for your wife. Of course, your wife's health comes first. It might not be best to have a difficult conversation right away, but it seems like you and your wife will need to discuss. Becky. I really do think your mom in this case is not overstepping, unlike so many other moms on this site and subreddit. I think she actually has some good advice. You're doing right by your wife and that's what's important. Not the asshole. Don't know what I'm going to do with my pitchfork now though, because that is not how I expected the story to go. As a woman who recently had supply issues due to stress, majorly not the asshole. Good for you for looking out for your wife, especially since it seems like she wants to breastfeed and you're supporting this choice of hers. Am I the asshole for letting Mill botch my cookie recipe? My Mill and I have failed to get along. She seems to think she's God's gift to mankind, she never apologizes when she does something wrong, and everything is a competition. I personally don't prefer her cooking because she uses low-fat substitutes for everything, even stuff you probably shouldn't, like cheesecake. Anyways, I make really good cookies. I enjoy baking, and everyone I know likes what I make a lot. Mill and her boyfriend came over, and he tried to convince me to make some chocolate chip cookies to take home. Mill said she could make them way better than I could. I said okay, go for it. I don't care to compete with her. So she goes in my kitchen and whips up a batch of cookies for her boyfriend. I was watching her do it, and she did some stuff that I personally wouldn't have done. She only used cold ingredients, she overused the mixer for a long time, and she didn't chill the dough after mixing. The cookies came out pretty bad. She also burnt them slightly. Her boyfriend and my husband were both visibly disappointed. I want to say now that I didn't gloat. When she asked everyone how they turned out, I said they were all right. Her boyfriend frowned and my husband said mine are better lol. She was angry and asked what I would have done different. I explained the above. She then ranted to me about how I shouldn't have let her ruin them, and blamed it on how my oven and mixer are different than hers. Guys, I've used her stuff before. It's not the oven or mixer. Am I the asshole for letting my mill ruin cookies? Recipe. Chocolate chip. 1/2 cup granulated sugar, 3/4 cup brown sugar, packed 1 teaspoon salt, 1/2 cup unsalted butter, melted 1 egg, 1/2 teaspoon vanilla extract, 1 1/4 cups all-purpose flour, 1/2 teaspoon baking soda, 1 cup milk, chocolate chunks or chips, 1 cup semi-sweet chunk or chips, your preference. 1. Mix sugars, salt, butter until well mixed. You can use an electric or regular mixer. 2. Add egg and vanilla. 3. Mix flour and baking soda in a separate bowl. Then combine mixtures. Do it slowly and don't use a mixer. You don't want the dough to be overmixed. 4. Once flour is incorporated, add chips or chunks. Fold them in with a spoon or something. 5. Wrap up dough in plastic wrap and put it in the fridge. Chill it for at least 30–60 minutes. Pref 2+ hours. 6. Bake at 350 for 10 minutes-ish, till the edges are golden brown. Also, use parchment paper. Lol, not the asshole. Open mouth smile. She tried to show you up and failed. That is entirely on her. What were you supposed to hold her hand through the entire process? Not the asshole. She made her own baking decisions which yielded a poor result. Had you offered your advice, I doubt that she would have been receptive. You have done nothing wrong here. Not the asshole lol, but entertaining story to say the least. Props to your partner for being truthful too. That's not something you see on here a lot with mill stories. Not the asshole. She wanted to make the cookies her way, she gets to take responsibility for them. They were not your responsibility to rescue. All things considered, she wouldn't have let you help and would have gotten mad at you anyway. It was a lose-lose situation. Not the asshole, but can you share that cookie recipe? My cookie game is lacking. Not the asshole. She was upset because her boyfriend asked you to make them cookies and she proudly stated that hers were better than yours, and you said that she can make them then because she clearly wanted to. Why the hell would you help her with cooking when you are clearly not as good as she is? Nothing you did was wrong. Am I the asshole for showing off after my stepfather kept telling everyone I was poor? I, early 30s female, have 2 children that were born when I was 21 and 22. My daughter, eldest, was an accident, but my second daughter was deliberate, as I found out that I needed a hysterectomy due to medical reasons, and being an only child and PSYC major, I believed it was important that my daughter had a sibling. At the time I had recently, amicably, split from my partner, and my stepfather was strongly against me further ruining my life by having another child due to his belief that you cannot be successful as a single parent. I ended up going no contact with my mum, stepfather and 2 half-siblings, at the time 10 and 9, over this. My stepfather is in no position to talk as he or mum are far from well off due to his gambling addiction that chewed through my mum's savings prior to his recovery. About 2 years ago my mum reached out to me as she was diagnosed with cancer. She came through it and is now in remission. I am not as close with them as I used to be, but things have been improving. However, my stepfather keeps going on about how I never made it because I don't have a nice car or a fancy apartment in the city or a husband, and insisting that I must be poor because I'm not materialistic. I got used to being frugal in my early 20s when I was a poor uni student with 2 kids and just never really changed. I have a very nice gov job with a 6-figure salary where I work from home, but I drive a 2009 Nissan and I own a nice house in the country because I don't see the point in buying a city apartment that I don't need or a flashy car that will have a shitty KMS to L ratio. Things came to a head at a recent family dinner when I told my mum about a budget place to get tires from, hers are almost bald. And my stepfather said, "Good to have a poor person in the family so we know where the deals are." I got pissed off and told him to stop assuming things about me and walked out with my kids. Yesterday I notified them of the $60K trust I have set up for my half-siblings' uni trust fund and took them to buy a vehicle each so they can get to uni. Both are starting this year. I deliberately left the windscreen price stickers on so my stepfather would see how much I spent. Today my stepfather called me ranting about how I was showing off and how I should keep my mouth shut and respect my elders. My mum texted Yo say that he's furious at her for ever contacting me. Am I the asshole here? Edited to add. The trust I've been putting together for a while because I know my half-siblings won't get financial support from their parents, but the cars I did purely out of spite. Not the asshole. Your stepfather's behavior is ridiculous. He's the one causing your mother's stress, not you. Not the asshole. May all of us have the ability to absolutely own the person that comes after us. Thank you for sharing. I really needed a win today. Not the asshole, and I love how you are helping those kids. Your stepdad is ashamed of himself as he should be, and it's causing him to lash out. Even if your kindness was partly inspired as an FU, you've done nothing but demonstrate how wrong he's been about you. That being said, he's going to make everyone else miserable over all this. Be cautious he doesn't take those cars and try to sell them. Or try to get control of those trusts. Not the asshole. He's just embarrassed because you proved him wrong. I love that for you. Not the asshole. If taking a little of the financial burden off for the sake of your half-siblings is an asshole move, I'd love to have an asshole like you in my life. You got revenge by buying his kids' cars and putting them through college. The extreme awesomeness of this just really brightened my day. Not the asshole, but probably my real-life hero. Am I the asshole for getting my niece a pup cup and treating her like a dog? I, am 25, have a 5-year-old niece Evie from my older sister Jane, F32. I took her out last week to go to the zoo and give my sister and her husband a break. On our way home, we went through our local Starbucks drive-thru. Now Evie rarely gets these drinks with my sister, mainly because they're expensive and she never finishes them, even the smaller size. My sister also isn't a huge Starbucks fan, she prefers simpler coffees. I asked what she wanted and she didn't know. I asked her if she wanted a cup just full of whipped cream, and she got excited and said yes. So I order my drink and also got a pup cup, which is what people usually get their dogs, hence the name, and it's just a small cup of whipped cream. Evie loved it and it didn't cost me anything, so I figured it was a win-win situation. I drop her back home and came inside as well. My sister asks how her day was, and Evie tells her. When it got to going to Starbucks, my sister asked what she got and Evie said a pup cup and rambled on about how it was a cup full of just whipped cream. My sister looks at me and asked if it's the one you give to dogs. I said yeah, and jokingly said, "Isn't that right Evie, Evie the cutest Dalmatian?" Evie laughed and pretended to bark, before running off to get their family dog to show me, a Dalmatian, for reference to the joke. My sister was pissed. She said I was a dick for getting her daughter something meant for dogs and pretending like her daughter was a dog. She linked it back to feminism and how I was somehow degrading her and her daughter. She told me to apologize and I said no and left. Our dad told me that Jane was just being protective of Evie and that I should just apologize since it wasn't worth it. I plan on doing so since it's such a big deal to her, but from an unobjective standpoint, am I the asshole? Not the asshole. I think the whole thing is kind of cute to be honest. Not the asshole, your sister went a bit overboard in her ideas of feminism. Hell, I loved pretending I was all sorts of animals when I was younger, plus I'd still take a cup of whipped cream any day. Not the asshole. The child enjoyed her pup cup. And my 5-year-old loves pretending to be a dog. Not the asshole. This isn't degrading nor is it an attack on feminism. It's a damn cup of whipped cream. Your sister should be apologizing to you. Not the asshole. Just because it's called a pup cup doesn't mean it's filled with dog food. It was still whipped cream she had. To link that to feminism is such a long reach. I'm shocked she didn't throw her shoulder out. Not the asshole. Your sister knows whipped cream isn't actually for dogs, right?